literally like a child, right? So at the start of a business, you have to nurture it, right? You put in money into it, you put in time, you put in effort into it, you're trying to build, you're exploring all these different options with the business, and you're trying to build it up into something that is like a young adult,
Yeah.
right? Can manage on its own, could function on its own, right? And then they're going to get it to the point where it can be independent and so like if I can now step back like 30 years or 20 years, right? I can now step back and now my business is not mature enough. Like I have managers running my business and I don't have to be there full time and I can now relax and think, right? But it's like a child. So business is like a child. You're raising a child.
Morning, everyone. Good day. Gerard Andrews here yet again for the series that we have been continuing. And today we have a very, very interesting guest. And I say the word interesting because he's a man of many talents, right? And when I talk to to Vinai, he always have some new topic for us to get engrossed in. And today I'm just going to be interviewing him, on the arm of, retail, because him and his family have been involved in business for over 50 plus years. And he's about to give us some very, very valid insight into, how could we know, have a business that has lasted this long and what they would have done differently to basically thrive and survive the various times in economic trying times. Right. So this morning I have Vinai Charran. Mr. Vinai Charran, how are you?
Jared, good to be here. I'm doing good. Fighting through this little decline in the economy right now. But yeah, it's up time to be having this discussion.
I think it's very apt. It's very apt that we having this conversation here right now. And but I always believe in understanding the story of any businessman or woman, because it is a story that is steeped in a lot of culture, is steeped in family history, steeped in a lot of life lessons, right? A lot of grit sometimes as well too. So I want to start off there, if that's okay with you, because the book is it released already or to be released?
Yeah, no, it's released already. We had it actually it came out a little while ago, and we brought it back. We reissued it again. So actually, have some new copies coming out in a little while.
Excellent,
But yeah,
excellent. So, because your family business has lasted for decades, right? What do you think would have allowed the business itself to survive this long, even through various economic downturns and upturns?
well, I mean, I say frugality, and I mean, my father was very much strict on how much you spend on it. So if there's a dip in the economy, what you normally do is you cut back on expenses. You try to find ways and also not just to cut back on expenses, but also find a way. He always had this thing he'd do. He'd pass his savings on to the customer. So if we got a savings in something, then he would reduce the price and say, okay, fine, because everybody in the same position, right? If money tight for us, money don't be tight for our customers as well.
Correct.
So therefore, you have to kind of meet them somewhere along the line.
Halfway at least. I like
Yeah, at least somewhere.
I like how you said that way. It is your past. People don't say that as in past savings onto the customer itself, And I guess he probably would have learned that from your family itself, like that the culture. Could you go and give us the early days of the Charan family and how that now the virtues and lessons learned would have now translated into business?
I mean, honestly, we actually did a recent like research into the family, right? And we discovered that my great grandparents came to Trinidad in 1895. Yeah, they were 20 years old, right? 1895, they arrived in Trinidad to work in the plantations. My grandfather, my grandmother were both born in the plantations and worked in the plantations, right? And then after the contract was up, these plantations were selling land, so they ended up buying, like taking land and buying the land. And then they started planting themselves because that's what they knew. And they started selling. So my grandmother used to sell in Chigonas Market, Port of Spain Market, Tunapuna Market, when Tunapuna Market opened up. So we used to supply, I think it's Trinidad Juices, I forget the name of the company. That used to canned juices, right? We used to supply them. My father told me stories of carrying truckloads of oranges and grapefruits to there because they had an orange estate, right? And then from there, they started selling. So they used to sell they had a store in Felicity, then they put a store in Chigonas opposite the market. And that store still there. My uncle runs that store.
Serious.
Right. Yeah. And this is sell dry goods and market items, like a greengrocer. And during the war, they used to come to Charles to get with the Russian card to get your copper rice and your sugar and all those kind of things.
Right.
Right.
Since the war. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So so after that, then they used to start like Uranese, like Indian women
Yeah.
would wear. on the head, right? You sell roadies, you sell cloth, right? And then from there, my father moved to Tunapuna in 1969, right? And that's when we said, okay, fine. The family said, okay, we're going to, so they kept selling those same things. We were selling cloth, we were selling all these other things. And then we got into books. When the government started building schools, because I went those, and the early days, schools were all church run. There were no government schools. Yeah, all the schools are church run, right? So when we gained independence, that was one of the first things the government started doing was building schools and converting schools into government schools. So we got into it. So we started making uniforms for schools, designing uniforms for schools, and then bringing in book textbooks from England. And that's how we got into the whole book business in 1960s and 1870s.
And you all are still educated Trinidad until
And we're still there now. Yeah, yeah. And we're still trying to do what we can do.
Yeah, no, I mean, you guys are doing I mean, I grew up knowing Charrans, as in I remember I went to San Fernando Boys RC, and I believe having to go and get my school uniform, or just fill out the like they would give you the
Yeah.
card for your parents. My mom would say, all right, let's go High Street, let's go this place, let's go that way. Oh, Charrans, I have to go Charrans.
Yeah. Because at one point in time we were the largest because we had stores everywhere. We had stores in St. James, Port of Spain,
Yeah.
Barataria, Tunapuna, Grandi, Shigona, San Fernando. That's where all the stores were. Now it's kind of it's shrunk now as the family kind of moved. I mean,
Not only that, I mean, you're saying strong, but I strong, but I would say that you guys have transitioned because Q know that you guys have the website, right? Which I
yeah.
was like happy to see happening, because that is the next age that we are going in.
Yeah. But it's, remember, it's still a family business, right? So different members run different things, right? Shigona is my uncle. The website is my cousin. Wild Park is my cousin. But then Tunapuna, Trinity Mall, San Juan, Diego Martin, and Tobago is me. It's us, my brother and I.
So as
And my other cousins are in Gandhi.
No, sorry, sorry to cut you.
Yeah, no.
You said you, and I wanted to focus a little bit there because I wanted to ask you, because we spoke about the story, and I wanted to know what life lessons, growing up in the family, you would have taken from just growing up in the family to now as you stepped into your role of leadership.
Well, I mean, that's my father. I mean, there's always been, he's not wasting money, right? Always trying to be frugal. And like I said, trying to pass on the benefits to the customer and trying to meet the customer at their economic level in a sense, right? Depending on how the economy was going. Obviously, I mean, you're importing goods, so obviously exchange rates varying or the suppliers raising prices. You have to manage that. But as you grow, and you get more buying power, and you have more negotiating room. You can start to bargain for prices, and you get a lower price, and you can lower your price, and you offer a special, and that kind of thing, right? But also attracting the customers. I mean, that's why I like retail because I mean, I'm in the store, I'm not in the office outside of the store, I'm not in a warehouse, right there. So I walk in my office, I talk to the customers, you interact, and you meet that gamma, a wide gamut of people. I mean, I have from market vendors to housewives that come in to shop, to lawyers, politicians. I mean, everybody comes in at some point, and they have kids. They come in to buy books,
Correct.
right, or uniform for the child.
Yes.
So you see them.
So yeah, you said that you guys pass the savings on to the clients again, which is something that a lot of people miss in other business. I would say in retail, but like you being on the ground, what other things you think that other people in the industry would miss because they are not on the ground with the customer?
Yeah, instant feedback. I mean, you hear. I mean, I sit in my office. I can hear customers talking, right? And you kind of. I mean, I guess in Trinidad, I call it macroing, right? You hear them talking. You hear them, they're talking about look at the price of this, or I can't afford to buy this, or let's see how best we could, manage. And the thing is, like, advise the customer, okay, fine, here what? You may not need to buy this now, so wait, right? I mean, we have the experience now. I mean, we've been selling books for how many years now? You don't need to buy this now. You can wait a while, wait till you get to school, and hear what the teacher says. And if they say yes, they need it now, then buy it, right? Yeah, but this textbook, no, you need that now, or this is low supply, so I advise you buy this now, and you can probably wait because we have there's extra stock in these items. It's not a big demand, so you definitely get it later on.
Later on. I love that. So again, those two tidbits are just grabbing it on for those listeners and people watching. Passing the savings on to the client and constructive feedback. I would say constructive all wrong, whether it's bad or good. It is constructive because you now are making it constructive and working for the business, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I had an argument with my father when I was younger, right? When I now came into business, I said, Dad, I don't understand. Yes, yeah, I mean, I was doing economics and that kind of thing, right? And
Right,
you're talking
right.
about inflation, and you said every year there's inflation, right? And everywhere you go, prices is going up.
Yeah.
But in our store, I was like the price either staying the same or dropping, which is the opposite of what should happen, right?
Correct.
I mean, there's certain things I remember. Some newspaper did an article years ago about the cost of textbooks and the cost of stationery at sending a child to school, right? And I told the reporter, I was like, we've had the same price for at that time for copybooks and stationery items for 10 years. It was the same price. It never changed, right? And some items we actually dropped the price as well. Same quality item, same item, we just dropped the price. We were able to drop the price because we got a better price from the supplier, right? But again, I mean, to me, it's like, why is it our business? The price is going down, and everywhere else you go grocery, everything else price is going up.
Going up. Correct. Yeah, that is a phenomenon, right? I mean, and that is why you have us, as in your, the customers, because they know that they could count on you. That's a different kind of feeling, a different kind of relationship that they have with them. So just transitioning now, Vinay, to talking to the small business owners, right? I want to know,
Mhm.
your opinion on this, right? How important is cash flow and capital compared to growth and expansion? I know growth and expansion sounds sexy, but cash flow and capital, talk to me as in where do you lie with regards to that?
I mean, cash flow is the lifeblood of any business. So you need cash flow. Remember, you have to pay salaries, you have to pay overheads, you have to pay utilities, the bank or rent or whatever you have to pay if you're a mortgage. So you have costs that they have to cover, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly,
Correct.
right, annually. So if you don't have, I mean, I have friends who in business and their biggest issue is cash flow. Right? I mean, like right now, I think a lot of businesses in Trinidad now, especially SMEs, their biggest issue is cash flow.
Yeah.
Where are getting the money to pay rent? Or where are getting money to pay the mortgage in the bank? Or where are getting money to pay the salaries from the staff, right?
Please. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's what, and I think like I always tell my like a lot of workers don't realize this, right? But at the end of the day, they will get a salary.
Yeah.
I may not get a salary because I can't get it because cash flow not there. It's like if I'm to take whatever I'd pay to get. So you, especially as an entrepreneur, that's what you have to do. So you have to give it to the people you have, and having a good team around you, you want to keep them. So you make sure you pay them. Right? But yeah, but cash flow is key. I mean, obviously, sometimes there's a point in time when you have to grow. So like for us, we started expanding, so we went to Napuna, and then because of competition and also because of the market, we you max out our market share into Napuna. You can't grow anymore. There's no more growth, right? So you have to move out in a different market. So you expand and you go out and you expand. And but the same time it has to be measured. You can't just go and open like if I'm going to open 10 other stores, right? And then you're struggling to manage because I've learned over time, location is key,
It is.
right? But it also takes anywhere between a year to 5 years to establish a location in an area, depending on the business. That varies from business to business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you start up a business now, you may not make money that first year
Yeah.
because customers have to get to know where you are. You have to build that because they're probably going somewhere else to shop.
Familiarity.
Yeah,
Fit in,
yeah,
fit
exactly.
in
You have
with
to
the
build that name.
neighborhoods.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So so now they get accustomed to you being there and then understand what you're offering because they may not have known you from before or
Yeah.
never shopped by you before. So it takes a while to get into for that market share to come in and to build that market share. And it also takes a lot of effort. So a lot of advertising goes into it, all those other things. So I mean, so that's why I try to manage it. So managing it, so cash flow is key. If the cash flow is the key, if you can manage the cash flow, then that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And then everything will come.
Everything else will come. Excellent. I appreciate you sharing that, because again, because of the dawn of social media, when people on there, the only thing you see in there is, growth and expansion, and
But it's
that's
because
buzzwords. But
yeah.
nobody's out there saying, "Hey, I'm struggling to pay my bills this month, and this is what I'm going to do." Actually, there are one or two companies doing that, and you actually see the kind of reach that they're getting in social media because people are now being able to relate to them, So thank
Yeah, I
you.
mean, I always say it like Amazon, right?
Yeah.
And Amazon started off in 1995, I think it was 19. I think what year it was.
Right after the
He lost money for the first, yeah, I think he lost money for the first 20 something years of Amazon. 20 years. He lost money. He kept losing money, right? Until now, he's the biggest retail company in the world,
Yeah, people
right?
running for the shares, one of the most popular
Yeah,
ones,
yeah. I mean,
right?
he doesn't pay dividends, but yeah, people run for it. But yeah.
Correct, correct. But that's the
Yeah,
trade-off
yeah,
right there because he knows his worth. He knows the worth of the company he
yeah.
have built. So you're very right, Vinay, that you now have to put a lot of focus on surviving by focusing on what is important, your cash flow and capital
Yeah.
incentives, right? So moving on now to talk more about your favorite topic, right? Foreign exchange, right? As you said, Vina, you are on the ground. You are not only on the ground with customers, but you're on the ground with other business owners like myself, right? And we experience the pinch daily. But like based on the feedback you've been getting, what has been the real impact in your opinion?
Supply.
Hmm.
There's a lot of goods that you can't get. I am lacking a lot of goods in my stores because most of my items have to import, right? And the same thing comes down to, I mean, the good thing is, or luckily for us, we have built relationships over time with multiple suppliers.
Built relations.
So we have, I mean, it's not ideal. I mean, yes, I get emails every day from my suppliers, I'm charging us money, right? But you explain to them and you sit down and you have these discussions,
Yeah.
right?
Dialogue.
And you have another key. You have to have that dialogue, right? And you say, listen, this is the case, this is what happened. And in some cases, they try to work with you, right? Because again, we've been in business for donkey years, right? Essentially. So therefore, so we have that reputation. But it is a difficult thing because without foreign exchange, if you think about it, what is it that we manufacture in Trinidad? And if you have to manufacture anything in Trinidad, you still need to get the raw materials in to manufacture it, right?
Materials.
Exactly. So, and that's the challenge that we have. So, even a lot of my suppliers locally, they don't have supply. You can't get supply because certain products are now. So now it comes down to you now have to manage. You can find what do I buy this month? What do I buy? Or what do I buy now to stock? And so what you find is now your selection is dropping because you have to focus on the best seller items only.
Right. So Vinay, like, can you share with us, if you can, an example of how you would have adapted, or what decisions you would have made in your leadership to now, allow the company to adapt during these times of, that struggle with Forex?
Um, Honestly, it is talking to multiple financial institutions, trying to see where you can get some forex coming in. It's again, like I said, is selecting the items that you definitely need for your business to run.
Yeah.
To have those items in stock, right? So yeah, so basically you kind of sacrifice certain items, or you buy locally, you substitute.
Substitute.
The problem with that is, yeah, the problem with that though is that you're buying locally from a supplier or you're buying from someone else, the price will be higher, right? Or might be higher, right? It might be higher depending on what it is, right? So and that's the problem you have, and that's the challenge you have. So then you have to raise, and the price goes up, and that's where the problem comes in. So now you're in a situation where, um, because the customers now see a price increase, and I wonder why is that price increase, and I'm like, well, this is what it is. We have no choice.
Correct.
Right. At the end of the day, any business, I mean, everyone, and you have to cover margins, right? You must cover your costs. So you want to have some amount of margins that you have to work with.
Yeah.
That was just doesn't make sense,
Mm.
right?
You said something interesting there, assessment, right? I mean, before you used to assess the business and how things go, especially with your products, but now you all are doing that more than ever because again, that will reveal where you could save costs, like what is important, what is not important. I think a lot of young business owners now, they like this whole mentality of set it and forget it. I mean, I don't know. I know I asked a young guy, hey, what you want to be and do when it is in the next 5 years? Or YouTube. I was like, okay, that's interesting. Because I encouraged him. I was like, yeah, go and do it.
Mhm.
He said, yeah, because eventually I just want to set it and forget it, as in, it will make X amount of videos, X amount of money, and then I could relax after that. I was like, relax. I was like, you have so much knowledge. Why you don't want to share that and move forward? So I just want to double down on your point that you're saying, there, Vinay, that assessment of the business, as in frequent assessment, frequent how you could say the word I'm looking for, being hypercritical of your own self, which is a hard thing to do in your
Yeah.
business, right? So, which kind of segues into the next question that I have, right? In terms of the struggle, right? So, what habits you would say would separate a struggling business from a stable business? Like, what habits you think are paramount in having that stable business versus struggling one?
Um, Managing the cash flow, um, managing the inventory,
Inventory.
essentially. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't think about it this way, but I mean, remember your terms are that's like a line of credit,
Yeah.
literally, right? That you get from a supplier. So it's managing those lines of credit that you have, whether it's from the bank, whether it's from a supplier, and managing the cash flow to fit into that line of credit. And that essentially is how you can, at least in times like this now, where things are tough, to try to manage your business, right? And try to kind of, like I said, you have to maintain the status quo kind of thing. You're trying to make it through. You're trying to just to trudge along until the crest, the wave turns up and it's going to start to crest again, and everything goes up. The tide coming back in. That's what you want. Um, that comes again from frugality, but it comes from being tight. And like if you find out you say you had to, tighten your belt or band your belly, what you gonna do? Gotta cut back. Okay, fine. And okay, we had to give up these certain things, right? Or maybe cut back. You don't let go of the employees. Okay, fine. We sit down and have a conversation. Let's cut back on hours a little bit, right? Let's see how we can make this work. At least you're still getting some income coming in. You're not completely out of a job, but we have to make it work somehow.
Correct.
Right, because this is where we at, right? This is where we at, and that's what we do as for any business. That's what comes into that communication with everybody, with your employees, with your customers, with your suppliers, with your bank, with everything. That is the most important thing. Having that conversation, also having structure in place as well.
Yeah.
Different structures in place. I mean, and sometimes as mentioned before, but I didn't come up, but like a risk assessment of your business, right? A lot of SMEs don't understand and don't realize the importance of that risk assessment, right? And this came up when I've gone to a symposium,
Mhm.
so, this is about 10, 15 years ago, about like kind of family businesses, right?
Right.
And that handing over succession, right?
Right. Estate plan.
And yes, well, not necessarily plan, but succession in a business, right? And you start to do a risk assessment of a business, and you start to think, okay, fine. So, okay, who are your key employees in your business, right? If you are the key employee in your business, what happens if something happens to you? If you become incapacitated,
Valid point.
what happens to your business? Does your business continue? Does it crash? Is there anybody there to fill the gap, right? And there are all different things. I mean, if a fire happens, if there's a hurricane, God forbid, or anything, all those things. Or if a key employee leaves, what are those risks? What are those? How does that affect the business, right? And you see it. I mean, I've seen it over years, right? I mean, I've had key employees that were working for me for years. I mean, they worked for my grandfather and my father, and then they were there when I came in, right? And these are so you're talking about these guys have been there for
They
years
pulling on
looking
the
for us,
furniture.
right? Yeah, and then when they left, right, you saw a drop, right? You saw immediate drop in certain aspects of the business. But then you build it back up, right? Because there wasn't proper planning in place, proper succession planning. Also, too, I mean, yeah, and then you also find too sometimes people just don't want to give up control, right? I mean, this man come to take my job. I don't have to train this person, you know what I mean? Or even as a parent as well, too. Yeah, I mean, my kids, I would show them the business, right? That's the business what it is. I would bring them in. I said because again, after you have to do. I mean, I grew up in the store, right? So we should live upstairs. So the playground, we didn't have a yard to play in, so we should play in the store, right? Because yeah, we live in Tunapuna, there's no yard, there's no grass,
Zero
nothing like
grass.
that. No, yeah, I didn't learn to ride a bike till I was a teenager when I learned to ride a bike because we had nowhere to ride a bike. It was just the main
You
road.
can't really drive through the aisles.
No, no, exactly. Yeah,
What was some
I used to,
games
we
you
used
and your
to,
brothers used to figure out, downstairs?
no, we used to skateboard in the aisles. We used to jump from shelf to shelf, like you climbing and you jumping from shelf to shelf in the storeroom and that kind of thing and whatever. I mean, all those kind of things. I mean, that's what I had to do.
Yeah.
Literally, because like, I don't know when you go by my grandparents. Like, it's my grandmother in Chagonas, and
Yeah.
she had all this land, and you go and run around and you're climbing trees and you're picking plum and all those other things, right? That's what it should be. But I mean, these days kids will do those kind. I don't know why kids do those kind of things now.
I mean,
You know,
we have to create as you said, it boils down to environments. We may have to create more environments for the kids to do that. To distract them from the distractions. Right?
yeah.
It's such a weird
Yeah.
kind of catch-22 with it. But
But
yeah, so
you also mentioned something earlier too about that person talked about YouTube, right? Like when I went to Tobago and I did the book thing at the library for my
yeah,
father's biography. And I was telling the kids at the library, so, because we host a spelling bee competition, a national spelling bee competition. Well, spelling and vocabulary, and we also do a math competition.
right,
So the Tobago leg for the spelling and vocabulary happened the same day. So we had standard 3, 4, and 5 students in the room, about 70 students, right? So they were there. So I was talking to them. I was listen. You all watch people like those YouTubers like Certified Samson or Kyle Boss or even like Speed who came down, right?
yeah,
And you see all the views that those guys get, right? But you don't understand the effort and the time it takes for those guys to sit down and film. How many takes do they take? Do they film? Right? For every script that they do. How much time do they spend to write to actually do the script of what they're going to talk about? Right? How much time do they spend editing those videos and piecing together and making sure it works? Okay, right, this car we're going to do it over again or film the segment again, right? And like a speed has a whole team behind them, right? A massive team behind them, right? So this second and forget thing, like, I'm just going to put some videos up on YouTube or Instagram or create this content. It's not like that, though. It takes effort and time. You know, like Malcolm Gladwell said, and I think it's tipping point to be with 10,000 hours,
10,000.
right? To master anything, you need to put in at least 10,000 hours into it,
I think that's what we're
right?
missing, as in we are not sharing the story of grit. We're not sharing the story that, because
No.
everything you've said to this point, right? Somebody be like, yeah, we kind of already know that. Yeah, you know that, but be about it. If it is that you haven't done if you're listening to this and you haven't done a risk assessment in the last 3 months for your business, that explains a lot, right?
So a lot of SMEs have never done a risk assessment. They never even know what a risk assessment is,
This is
right? And then you sit down and actually do a risk assessment, and you realize what they talk about and what comes up in a risk assessment. There's a lot of items that honestly, that I never thought about.
Yeah.
But I was asking questions, right? I was like, wait, I didn't think of that as a risk,
Yeah.
but it is a risk.
Huge.
You understand? Yeah.
And so like you said, there's with the risk assessment, a lot has to do with technology, right? And I was always curious because every time we speak about the different, you give me little anecdotes about look the last time with the shipping situation with Central America and stuff like that, right? Which I found fun, right? But I always wanted to know, like, how has technology, right, Vinay, affected retail in your opinion locally?
It's difficult to say. I mean, okay, so you have your basic technology, which is like inventory management, and those kind of things. That exists and that works and helps you in managing the inventory and seeing how, what sells the boost and everything else. But then you have the other side of it. Okay, like right now, I'm facing AI textbooks in schools, right? Which is a major shift, right? In our business, right? Which it might be a big hit for us. My industry, the book industry and publishing industry, is seen as a massive hit to us.
Yeah.
Because with that, would people come in to buy books, or would you need a book, right? Because everything's now online. But all these studies have shown, another thing is a balance, right?
Yeah.
So we talk about the destruction of devices, right? And I've read all the articles these days, like for the last year, with Sweden, Denmark, South Korea, even Los Angeles. When Los Angeles, the school district has banned screens in schools, right? They don't have screens in schools at all. Sweden has done the same thing. Sweden has done the same thing too. No screens in schools, just up to a certain level,
Actually, they did it
and
in
they're back to
France now,
physical
and they have
textbooks.
reaped any benefits, if I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken.
yeah, yeah. Denmark did it as well too. South Korea canceled it. Yeah. Because again, what you learned is again it's a distraction, right?
Yeah.
So and I think COVID showed us that as well too. Some kids thrived on it, on the online schooling and everything else, and some kids did not, right? And you saw that during COVID, and that was actually a good gauge of where we're at. Not saying now in the future it may change, but I think the more important thing now for us to do in Trinidad is not is using technology, but not like necessarily using it, but teaching kids now how to program using the technology, or how to program the technology, how to work with the technology, right? Not just think if I'm going to use technology in school, I'm going to this what it is, and not teaching them the back part of it. That's what China's doing. China's actually teaching their primary school kids how to program using AI, how to program a robot to make it move, how to program to make different things happen, right? And that's part of the curriculum. But they're not using AI in the classroom,
No.
right? They're teaching them how to program using AI, how to create items using AI, right? And that's what you want to do. But technology, it makes it easier for business. It's happening in all industries.
Yeah, it does. But as you said, it's use. It's not the tool; it's the user of the tool. Where you find that power. You find that
Yeah.
that use that benefits and value. So yeah, so I agree with you fully.
But then you have the risk there too, right? So when you get hacked and your entire system is now locked because you no longer have access to your data and your business shuts down, because that happened last year. There were a number of companies in Trinidad, or year before, I believe it was. Right. Yeah. So some of them you didn't hear about, right? But a lot of companies, big companies, got hit,
Yeah,
and the systems were knocked out.
like some of our clients in the private sector, yeah, they were in a mess.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
The whole
Yeah.
recovery, that's a whole industry by itself, the recovery of that
Yeah. Yeah.
information and how we're going
Yeah.
to, and then again, it's setting up the system so that it doesn't happen again, right? Because I think,
Exactly.
yes, it's a big hit.
But again, remember you put in all of your eggs into this one cloud basket or this hard drive. If anything happens, then again comes down to risk assessment. Anything happens to that cloud or that access to that cloud or that other hard drive, and that's it. Your business is completely gone, right? Depending on what it is,
Correct.
right? All the data is gone, all the records gone,
So as we were
and that's the
looking
challenge.
of mistakes that happened last year, right? What mistakes do you see SMEs, commonly make, as they try to grow?
One might be expanding too fast or trying to expand too fast. Um, Again, because the cash flow.
Yeah.
That's one of the main things. Other than that, I think also not having proper structures in place as SME. Remember, most SMEs are, especially the S part, right? Is generally there's a founder, and the founder is still there, right? And the more you expand, is the more people you have to manage, more inventory you have to manage, more. There's just more to do, right? And you have to think about it. I think you find how much time do you have, or can you to donate to that, right? Or give to that. So therefore, if you don't put structures in place, okay, fine, you need to hire other people, you need to get managers in place, and you need to put, have to put a proper organizational structure in place to manage all these things for me, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to understand, okay, fine, where am I? Where do I want to be in my business? Do I want to be like hands-on running my business day to day,
Right.
or are you going to become the big picture, looking from above, managing your team and looking for opportunities to grow your business, or to expand your business, right? Or even to the other businesses to get into,
Yeah.
to supplement your business, um, which which is hard to do if you are hands on and yeah, and very much nitty gritty kind of thing.
Other people to grow and allow the business to grow because those people are growing.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, like I shouldn't like this. I mean, now you want to be able to see, okay, fine, what opportunities are there, right? How can I earn my own foreign exchange? How can I, where can I get foreign exchange from? So, okay, fine, I need to earn foreign exchange. Is there any product I could make myself in Trinidad? Is there a niche? I mean, we had a discussion before, right? I mean, I have on a single day, I might have 10, 15 things in my head, ideas that pop into my head based on my experience or interacting with people on a daily basis. And I do research. I mean, I'll go down and do research on some items and say, okay, fine, just a proper market. Can we get into this market?
Yeah.
Right? Well, and you do your analysis. It's like, okay, fine, what's the competition? What exists currently? Is there anything in Trinidad or in the Caribbean, or who is the main person in this category worldwide? And you work from there, and the opportunity comes up. Yeah, and they kind of and they go systematically in different industries.
Yeah. So and you're correct, and that's a big mistake. A lot of people take their eyes off the research and development side of their business, as in seeking, as you as an entrepreneur, the head of the company should be seeking the opportunities instead of just trying to keep your mind focused on what the business is right now. Right. Also, too, as you said before, creating systems and allowing the staff that you hired to trust them to make those systems work, and getting their feedback as well. Right. And Vinay, I appreciate the conversation thus far. The last thing I want to ask you is that if a very young entrepreneur, because the children not as early as 16 now,
Yes.
registered a business, right? If a young entrepreneur wanted to build a business that lasted 30 plus years, right? What are the key principles you would give to that young person wanting to make that business that goes beyond that 30-year mark?
We mentioned many times before, grit, right? You have to put in the work. You have to put that effort in, right? No success happens without the hard work going in the background. You have to put in that time, that effort. And you don't realize how long it is. I mean, I've worked 20-hour days already, right? Because you have no choice, right? That's just how it is, especially if you're an entrepreneur, right? You put in that effort, try to build this thing, because at the end of the day, if it fails, then what do you have? Right? It's like I always tell, I mean, my parents will say it too, right? Is that the business is like a child. Literally, it's like a child, right? So at the start of a business, you have to nurture it, right? You put in money into it, you put in time, you put in effort into it. You're trying to build, you're exploring all these different options with the business, and you're trying to build it up into something that's like a young adult, right? Can manage on his own, could function on his own, right? And then they're going to get it to people where it could be independent in terms of, if I can now step back like 30 years or 20 years, right? I can now step back and now my business is now mature enough. Like I'm manager running my business and I don't have to be there full time and I can now relax and think, right? But it's like a child. So business is like a child. You're raising a child. So think of it like that.
I love that
Right.
analogy. And Vinay, with that, I thank you, right? Thank you and your family for continuing to educate Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you as a business owner that you're so open. You know, Vinay, when I talk to and have these conversations, I always look forward to them because you inspire me continuously to push in business and to really look at things that move the needle rather than keeping focused on the needle and worrying about it. You know, you have to have that kind of, as you said, a child, you know, as your business is a child, you still have to have that childlike spirit as well, too. Spirit of
Mhm.
adventure. You know, like if there's a conference in the East, as in China, that is in alignment with your business, go, you know, go take the time, go
Yeah.
and see what's going on, and then come back and bring that here and make good on it, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah. So any last bit of advice you would have for, as again, 50 plus years in business, just wanted to share, with the, entrepreneurs of tomorrow and letting them, be inspired by, your words and your success thus far.
I'll say this too. Learn from your competitors. You'll be surprised what you can learn from your competitors. And also, and not just competitors as well too, but also learn from other industries and see what they do, right? And again, how you say like traveling to different countries to see, like when I travel, right? I always visit a bookstore. I always visit a stationery store. I always look at, okay, fine. I would look at uniform and shoes. I go to shoe stores. I go to and see what is there that they have. Like what the uniform is like in different. I was in Germany last month, right? On a trade show. But I went and I visited. I went to a stationery store and I sat down. I went through all the items that they have. I said, okay, fine. I want to discuss something Trinidad. What's the price point? What this is, and looking at and it exposed. Because another thing you may not see, you're not going to see it in Trinidad. It's small, right? But you see it there, and then it's different to online. I could lift it, I could feel it, I could touch it, I could write, I could play with it, I could, right. That's what I want. I look at clothing, like uniform material, right, and look at all these uniforms and what, like, looking at kids in school, like what uniform do they wear in Germany, or what uniforms do they wear in this country, England, right? What's the style? Those, I mean, and you look at and you observe other against your competitors. I mean, they're not direct competitors, but they're same industry, right? And you see what they do, and you see what their markets are like, and then you see, okay, fine, can that fit in the Trinidad, or can that work here? You know, or how can I adapt that to me in a sense? And it exposes you again to changes in it. I mean, technology is moving so quickly that whatever. I mean, we see it every day, right? Like what is good now or new now in December is old, or something new is talking about technology wise, right? So right, and you can't always keep up, right? But you have to find, yeah, but you have to find the correct, you have to find that balance. I think, if this can work, this can work for me, you know. And again, you see it from the exposure. You need that exposure. You need that worldly exposure of going out there and looking and see if and what's happening outside Trinidad, and not just what's happening.
Correct. And getting your eyes open to different, as you said, different windows, of opportunity as
Yeah,
well. Right.
yeah.
So Vinay, I thank you again. I'm not going to take up any more of your time, but again, I really, really am appreciative of the nuggets that you would have shared. Right. And I just want to wish, you and your family and your business, 60 plus more years. Right. Let's go on, because again,
Thanks, Jared.
you guys have contributed in a big way to a lot of lives. And I think that's the most important thing. We look at the quality of life in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
Certain businesses would have played into that, and yours being one of them. So thank you
Mm-hmm.
again, Vinay. Yeah.
All right, Jared. Take care.
All right.
Enjoy it. All
You
right.
too, man.
Bye. Take care. Bye.